Good morning and welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio on a Friday. The best thing you could ever do in your life is listen to us every day. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We're on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, as well as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all the places on the Pillar Exterior stage. What is up, DB?
I love that line. The best thing that you could ever. I feel like that, right?
Yeah.
Because what I just said it to you last week. I said it, I don't know, a couple months ago. It's like when kids pick high schools.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing I think you can do
Let's go to Westside.
is go to Westside.
Yep.
Just come be around us.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
We can make you better.
But
We'll take care of you.
But if you don't,
We still love you.
I still love you. There's so many kids I talked to yesterday that I genuinely, and I don't even care what school they play for. I'm like, and I know, or sometimes I worry.
Mm-hmm.
Worry is a strong word because at the end of the day, I don't care. But I do think sometimes my own coaches think it's weird.
Yeah, sure.
But I do think because they genuinely care about me,
Mm-hmm.
that they're okay with me.
Well, and they know it doesn't affect your job.
No.
Not one bit. You're going to go out there.
Listen, I can go give TJ Whaley a hug and still want to beat the brains out of WS.
You coach your head off and So it's different. That's what probably makes them okay with it.
Yeah.
Is they know they're not getting any lesser of your abilities just because you like the kid on the other side.
I could tell Coach Huffman, hey man, your shoe game is incredible.
Yeah.
That
still want to go beat his head in on Friday.
That gold
Yeah.
is sick.
Yeah.
Hey, my man had on some gold Ultra Boosts.
Ooh.
Dude, they were so saucy.
I feel like me and Huffman might get along a little bit.
You know, deep down you would.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of the same delivery mechanisms.
Yeah.
And you have to, you know, it's like I tell people that sometimes struggle to deal with his outward personality. You just have to be, and I say this as though it's simple versus easy. You just have to be secure.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh, so it's super simple, but really hard.
yeah, it's like, I mean, he'll say some things to me. Shoot, the first time I saw him at team camp, he's like, hey, man, you don't have to stop saying mean things about me on the radio. I was like, what? Come on. He's like, no, I'm just playing, but my wife's not really feeling you right now. I was like, but I love her.
Yeah.
And, you know, so like, it's just like that.
For
you know
sure.
what I mean? Sometimes.
Well, and Rule's comments yesterday kind of remind me of this house versus the home thing keeps.
Dude,
it keeps coming up.
I say a lot of things that he says to me sometimes in private that move me. Like you, and you know this.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'll always tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Or it just seems like you are around when it happens.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, that right there, like that sequence, because of how it happened. So you got to think. If you're just tuning in, first of all, welcome. Did you do the Pillar Exteriors thing? Because I saw a couple of their vehicles 2 days ago, and I've seen it. That's the second time I've seen them in a couple months, and it's on the same street. Do you remember what street it was the first time?
108th.
It actually was right. I was banging the right on 108th and Center, right by Donna Millie's, getting on Center to head east towards 90th.
Yeah. Same
strip.
Getting some work in.
The little vehicles. Pillar Exteriors.
They look good.
Yeah. Shoot, I need them too, man. Come check my siding. But anyway, so he has. It's a official visit week tonight, obviously, and Sanders and the young man from your neck of the woods in I almost said Tallahassee. I whispered like nobody else could hear too. We're coming in, and it's supposed to be. It's the panel, right? And he's going to introduce Kristen, and she's going to do her thing, and she's going to talk about nutrition. And he kind of just stole the stage for like 8 minutes.
Yeah,
he wasn't even going to get up there
because there was other people's stuff.
Yeah. And he did, and he gave the house versus the home reference. And first of all, when he said, I'm not here to sell you on the University of Nebraska, he said that'll be kind of just be a natural byproduct if we're doing it right. He said, but what I'm here to help you do is find a home.
Yeah.
Then he went into it.
Right.
Like, how do you open with that?
Being real secure.
Yeah, but you've said this before, like recruiting, and Schaefer and I got into a fantastic. I talked to Schaefer just in the middle of a 7-on-7 tournament yesterday for like 30 minutes about recruiting philosophy. And he and I both agree, Coach Rule has this, and you and I have talked about this too, this uncanny ability to not only, say, hey, you're best with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to let you know that. But if you don't, and you decide to do something different, okay, but it better be good.
Yeah.
And if you come back to me, you better go ahead and admit that you made a mistake the first time around. Like, that's why I think
Yeah, you got to take ownership over the decision.
He quietly does that, I think, with in-state guys.
Mm-hmm.
If he likes you, he'll make the offer.
Yeah. But it's like, if you go somewhere else, you better be pretty sure.
Yeah.
And if you want to come back, you better.
And he's
it's not like hat in hand so much, but
I don't
like,
think he'll say that out loud, but
Yeah.
I do think internally
that's the vibe you get.
that's the vibe that I get.
Yeah.
Like, nobody else is going to be as good for you here as I am.
Yeah.
I would choose me.
Mhm.
Like, I truly think he believes that.
100%.
That's why he's secure enough. And I saw this on the board yesterday, I think, or the day before, because we've talked about Merritt and his recruiting, and his dad had the tweet, and he's like, whatever he was with the whispers, and Coach Rule liked the tweet, and everybody wanted to understand what that meant. Like, who's the whispers? Maybe Coach Rule's the whisperer. Maybe this, that, and the other. And in my head, all I was thinking of, you know what I was thinking of?
Mm-hmm.
That same philosophy. Doesn't matter who the whispers are coming from. I'm secure enough in who I am that if I feel like retweeting something,
100%,
I'll retweet it. It's the same as I told you. I said, did you see what he did with Christian Jones' Auburn tweet?
Yeah.
Yeah, he retweeted it.
Yeah.
and we talked about that on the air, and I was like, I think that his ability to do that, because if you go way back to when I first had to take a break, before I was talking about, he had the thing that leaves you wanting more with him is you get the sense that he could do without you. Right? Like, have you ever been drawn to anybody like that?
So here's how I would put it, because I think I know what you're talking about. With the people I've been around that are like that, it feels like they could do without you, but they prefer you to be around.
100%.
Like, there's the second.
Yeah. There's
right?
the cap. Yeah. It's not even a caveat. That's the
second half of. It's like, I don't need you, but I want you to be here.
And so I know why I like that.
Yeah.
I know why I'm drawn to that. I'm drawn to that because
I want people to choose me.
Yes.
I don't want people to have to choose me.
Yes.
I want them to want to choose me.
Now, mine probably stems from more. Well, the first part is insecurity. So the first part is, and I obviously, with what happened at Rickwood yesterday and Reggie Jackson and this will make perfect sense. But I told bits and pieces, and I just said it again the other day with Willie Mays. Being so insecure with who I am, I didn't want to do the dog and pony show. I didn't want you to just like me because I was good at sports.
Yeah.
Or you thought I was good at sports.
You ran fast, jumped high.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I because believe me, there's a stigma with the run boy run. Run, black boy, run. Like,
yeah.
And I felt like I don't really want to be like that. I want you to choose me. Right?
Choose you for what you're good at.
Have me over to
choose
swim
me.
or come hang out with the fam or meet your kids because you like me. You're cool with me. Don't have it be because of this ancillary other stuff. Because there's a lot more to me than that.
And that stuff goes away. It always goes away.
So that was the first part. Then the second part was, I think I can say this out loud. It's whatever. So when I'm struggling in my 30s, and I'm going through a life transition, I remember the famous, and I've told you about this off to the side because of what a catalyst it served. When you get the paper signed, it's like 11 maybe or 12, and I was like, hey, are you sure? Like, she's like, yeah, like, you don't understand what it's like to be around you. It's just oppressive. And hearing the word oppressive
as a black man,
and then having it applied to me, I was like, this will never happen.
That's the last thing in the world you wanted.
This will never happen to me again. If anybody wants to walk. If anybody wants to go someplace else, go.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let me be the reason for your treason.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So fast forward, when I see somebody that I think shares, because I think we think his life is all rainbows and butterflies. Like, if he got into the nitty gritty, he'd tell you growing up, like, he wasn't always a great kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they had to make a couple of moves.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of drawn to that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawn to the fact that he's super candid. I'm drawn to the fact that he has that ability, right? Choose me.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly how he recruits. You want to rewind? Hey, I have a special affinity for guys that commit to us before the proof is in the pudding.
Mm-hmm.
I have a special affinity for guys that don't wait for us to be good.
Because we want to get good.
I am exceptionally loyal
mm-hmm.
for you taking a chance on me because you believe in me.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is the whole choose me thing.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
Choose me because you want to.
Because that's how I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly like, and I got the line from DJ, but the premise is the same. You don't get this life without me in it. That means you have to take the good
mm-hmm.
and you have to take the bad. I'm going to try to minimize the collateral damage,
sure.
but it's why I like Bill. It's why
mm-hmm.
That's why I feel the way that I do about Bill.
Yeah, because there's a understanding.
Because from the jump
mm-hmm.
to however long we were talking, it was. I think he knew that there were some weird little personality traits. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll take that. We'll figure out how to shape it. And I mean, in essence, use it to both of our advantages. And hey, how you do? Like, see, that's why I'm always going to be, that's why I'll always be loyal to the soil. Because at that time, I didn't know him from a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
But he was choosing me.
Right. And not because he had to.
Right. Good, because of just the way, just my DNA, my coding, right? This is like the way that I'm built. That's why I'm very particular. I get the greatest joy. Like, my mood was vastly different yesterday around my staff because that's the first time I had been around them in a football setting in a couple months.
Yeah, hot minute. Yeah, for sure.
It made my day.
Yeah,
I think I gave every last one a hug. I even asked Coach Samanji, I was like, "Will you do the 2-hand hug, or are you just gonna let me in with one?" And you know he's not.
Just gonna bro dap it up, you know.
And you know what he did?
What?
Just gave me the one hand. That's it. But I know he cares, though, right?
Yeah.
I'm joking with Coach Secor, and I mean, it's just like, he just choose me, right?
Yeah.
So when I hear those kinds of things, I'm telling you, that's exactly how they recruit.
Mm-hmm.
And it explains the development piece.
Yeah.
It explains the, hey, just trust us piece. It's like, if we, I tell this to people about relationships, and it doesn't matter if it's boss, coworker, if it's spousal, if it's boyfriend, girlfriend,
whatever.
friend.
Yeah.
If I have your best interest at heart, and you have my best interest at heart, and we center on that, everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah, it'll just about everything.
It'll sort itself out.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's where you get I think that's where, especially locally with like in-state guys, I think that's where they can kind of feel well, I'm not feeling the love, or they recruited this guy differently. And I think the staff's pitch is the staff's pitch. It's up to the internalization of it is different for everybody.
Well, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. Different people receive things differently.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to have some guys that pitch really resonates with, and so when they commit and when they buy in, they're going to be all the way bought in. Then you're going to have other guys that's like, that's not really...
Ooh, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, or they're like, hey, I need a little bit more of the... You know, we talk about this with guys that like being recruited, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
To both of us, it doesn't really fit our eye that well. But, you know, Shafe made a good point. And he's like, I don't really see a correlation. He's like, I haven't seen, like, oh, man, these guys that love getting recruited always bust or whatever, right? Like, there's no indication that liking to be recruited means you're not going to be a good football player in college. All it means is that for us personally, doesn't really fit the way we kind of want guys to operate. But again, these guys are 15, 16, 17 years old, and they probably aren't going to operate the same way now as they will 3-4 years from now.
I want you to listen close to some. Shane, that clip you played about in the open from Coach Rule, take a listen to this here.
Mm-hmm.
Take a listen to how.
Let me get it here.
Just take a listen to the delivery,
okay,
and the impact of what he meant when he said it.
Well, first of all, I'm really, really, really proud of the people that work here. I'm just absolutely overwhelmingly filled with gratitude that so many of them, left jobs, NFL jobs, like great jobs, and moved here. And they did it because of their belief in what we're going to do and the way that we do it. So I'm just so overwhelmingly grateful, and I'm proud of what they do. Like, the hardest thing sometimes in recruiting is like, you're looking at a young person and you're saying, in my mind, I'm saying the best thing they could ever do in their life is come here.
You cut it off.
No, that was the full thing.
He's giving that thought, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to let you in.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I truly feel with my emotions. Like, this is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you can just meet me here with how much I care about you, and you care about us, I got you.
I think that's part of the reason, because so to have that recruiting philosophy is, yes, you have to be secure in yourself. You have to really believe in what your staff does. But I also feel like you have to really believe in the place you're at. And I think that's one of the things from a kind of a byproduct of the way he recruits that I really appreciate.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to recruit to just choose to recruit to facilities or wins if you've got them, or, hey, we send this many guys to the NFL. And he touches on all those things, right? But at the end of the day, part of the reason he feels
that's just the gravy.
Yeah, but part of the reason he feels like this is the best place for you, besides his staff and his coaches and everything like that, is he feels like this is the best place for him too.
Yeah,
like he likes the place, and he said that several times. Right, he loves it here. Sean Padden has said that. Like, you hear it from his staff over and over and over again. You hear him talking about people leaving NFL jobs to come move to Lincoln. Part of it's because of him.
Yeah, you know.
Part of it's because of us.
I told you he said it over the weekend. When we're just sitting at the table. This is before the famous meatball incident.
Yeah.
You know what people don't talk about enough when it comes to what I'm going to do and where I'm going to be and Penn State this or NFL that. He's like, I love being here.
Yeah.
I love this place. And
when is the last time it felt like the Nebraska football coach loved being here?
I almost I probably sat there like some ding dong. I wish I could go back and watch me, but we were the only two sitting at the table. Everybody, it's a lot. It's just chaos going on around. And he just took a second to plop down.
What's happening?
I don't know. But when he said it, I just was like, yep.
That's it right there.
Yep. And it's stuff like that makes it easy to not have to talk to your kid every day.
It's also,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Because that's
because you trust the environment he's in.
That's the practical application of it.
Well,
so even if I'm not sleeping, or I wonder if it's, whatever, like I don't have to pry, right? Just the other day, we're doing this, and this, and ooh, I locked this guy up. I felt pretty good because he's supposed to be elite, and I'm moving well here, and I'm working on this. He is, man, but then I got head tapped, and all the guys let me know, and I was trying to tell him, the scramble took too long. It's not realistic. He goes, yeah, but. I just had to eat it, man. Coach Coop just wants you to be accountable and, explain what you saw and you just keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to ask another follow-up question. Hey, listen, guys, my witness. This is a 3-minute conversation, but I didn't have to ask another follow-up because I know he's got that. Because then I go back to when Coop said, don't worry about being around because of your son. You don't have to talk to him. I got this. We'll just talk football.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got my son? Okay. And I'm not done. Like,
Yeah.
you know how I am, right?
Yeah.
It's like deep down, I think I'm doing it better than anybody.
Yeah, and you're not like, I mean, you're very like hands-on, obviously, and
But
so
I'll concede. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's because
because you trust the environment.
right.
And it goes, I mean, it's also the practical application of what Rule's pitching to recruits, right? He's, lived in other houses in coaching jobs before.
Yeah.
It seems like he feels like he's found a home here.
I'm super particular about like the functional position group drills, right? I have it in my head. I kind of how I want it to look, what I want to. But you know who I always take feedback from?
Who?
Coach Sikora.
Mm-hmm.
Why will I take feedback? Hey, he'll send me a drill, or hey, for efficiency's sake, or for whatever, right? And he'll take something on. I was like, hey, you want to take that? Like, see, I can only do that so freely because, well, number one, I trust him, but number two, it's I know he wants the best, so I don't really. At that point, I don't really care. It's like, hey, or he'll call and he'll say, I'll take the group early at 6:30. What language do you want me to use? I just want to make sure we're on the same. Like, see, you only have to do that like once or twice, and you got me.
Yep. And then you're like, oh, we're good.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. Right. Like, so when those kinds of things happen, and you're in like this working environment, and everybody has to be on the same page, like Coach Rule's ability to articulate the reverence or the feel that he has for his staff embracing him. See, there's power in that because you know who picks up on that?
Players do.
The players.
And everybody around.
The players know whether we as a staff get along and we like one another.
100%.
Right?
100%.
It 100% matters. I'm telling you.
Coming up on the show today, we've got Mike Sautter at the bottom half of the 8 o'clock hour. We've got Mitch Sherman at 9, and then we wrap up the show with the one and only Matt Vrzal at 9:45. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio. Coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, and we have Coach Rule audio, which I always love.
I feel like I'm on the cusp of just overflowing with emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
And and I have so many practical applications. Like, I know he's not lying.
So here's what.
Let's go back to just Gus real quick.
Yeah.
What's my Gus story?
With Caleb.
Right. Why? What was the Gus Caleb story?
It was Caleb was having trouble figuring something out.
Did I feel Caleb was being responsible?
No.
And did Caleb reprimanded?
Yeah, a little bit by Gus. Gus slapped the hand a little bit.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
Twice in a 24-hour period over virtually the same thing.
Yeah.
Did I care one bit?
No.
What'd I tell you the next morning?
That Caleb came around?
No, I'm riding with Gus.
Oh, you're riding with Gus. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what he just said.
Right. Well, because you can't be I feel like there's a couple things that happen on coaching staffs. I feel like when you don't recruit honestly, then you're afraid sometimes to be hard on people.
Fantastic point.
Because when you want to make it seem, especially early, especially when you're like, oh man, it's all sunshine and rainbows and butterflies.
Fantastic point.
And then you're like, oh, just kidding. It's not really like that around here. That's why I love that he doesn't care about game day visits, but he wants you around during normal times. He wants you around so you know what it's really like.
And his personality is put my staff to the test. If they fail, I want to know.
Yeah.
Well, it's right. Like there's definitely a degree of that.
And it's kind of what you're talking about, right? Like the game day experience is you playing sports, right? That's the palatable thing that everybody's going to love, right? What's everything else? Like, who are the people riding with DB for the other stuff, right? Who are the people riding for Nebraska when there's not 90,000 people in there? Who are the people riding for Nebraska when it's like the nitty gritty and it's hard and you got to do that? Because if you're buying into that, we're good.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a coach.
Like I do feel it.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical.
Yeah. And there's
especially as a parent.
There's a coherence. This is the part of the reason I believe it to the degree that I do, is there's a coherence to everything he said. There's a consistency to everything he says. Like it all like you don't hear one thing and you're like, wait, how does that fit with all the other stuff? Or you don't hear one thing that's like, okay, well, I liked that, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. Everything he says is just, and that's how you know that he's telling you the truth, because unless you're a sociopath, it's really like you can't have the consistency of lying that way. There's always a hole somewhere, and if you want to see it, you will. And you and I are both pretty skeptical. We will see the hole, right? There's a reason. That's the like, you want to get into why I don't like Dion. On the one hand, he says he's all about kids. On the other hand, he acts like he acts, right? On the other hand, he's cutting people on live television for his Prime Video show or whatever, right? Like that's inconsistent. I don't know how you can care about kids and embarrass them like that. I don't know how you can care about developing young men and treat them like commodities, right? Doesn't line up to me. Fair. I'm all the way out, right? How you do anything is how you do everything. Who said that?
Yeah.
Yesterday, right?
Oh man,
that's why I just am done with people so fast, because it's like, if that's how you do this, I have no interest in seeing how you're going to deal with me.
Yeah,
I don't want to deal with it.
What was he talking about early when he first got here? And he said, "What does that have to do with winning football games? Nothing, but everything." Was it the box in the hallway at recruiting? Was that story? That was after, but again, another example.
Yeah, example of that. That's the thing I thought of immediately.
Was it the clean locker room? Was it? It was something.
Clean up the bus after they get off it or something? It was something like that.
It was early. It was like
the
first handful of months.
It was something like that. And he goes,
it might have been response to BC's. I got to ask him. He goes, so what does that have to do with winning? Well, nothing, but everything.
Yeah, because how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And you mentioned earlier kind of the way he.
Do you know anybody that has like? What's a good example? Do you know anybody that has like a messy car but a clean house?
No. Well, maybe me, but it's because my wife cleans the house and she leaves my car alone.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Like, you know what I mean? But like, if the house was up to me, I'm not like I'm a cluttered.
You've said that.
I'm a cluttered person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If it doesn't immediately impede the thing I'm trying to do right now,
it's fine.
My mind doesn't even see it.
Yeah.
And that drives my wife crazy, and I get it, because she grew up in a military house, and like everything was like, you got the bed made, and like the whole thing is immaculate, and she's scrubs baseboards before people come over for holidays. I'm like, babe, no one's ever looked at those.
Yeah.
Not once. And she's like, yeah, but they need to be clean.
Kind of like when I think it's a good idea to run a Q-tip along the register, but I don't really.
You don't want to know. You don't want to know.
Or you have a ceiling fan and you just want to you want paper towels and just.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
All that, but like that kind of stuff. If it doesn't immediately impact me one way or another, my mind doesn't even see it.
Yeah.
And there's other things that I have, like that's a physical space thing. But there's other kind of abstract things that I'm really good at that sort of thing with. And so there's, I think you can be messy in some areas of your life, as long as, to me, it's more about like, are you careless? Because like you can be messy and not be careless.
Right.
And you can be clean and be careless.
Right.
Right. So to me, that's the more direct comparison.
So then it boils down to, okay, what and who am I hurting?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which is, I don't mind that philosophy and because I can understand how, certain guys, and I don't know how they feel across the country. I'm very in tune with how guys have been recruited locally. So I can get the compare and contrast and how, kids talk and this, that, and the other, and I feel the love or I don't feel the love. But I feel like at the beginning of recruiting or during the courting process, they're extremely consistent. And I think you have to listen better than you hear. And it is a feel thing. That's why he wants you around as much as possible.
So you can get a good feel.
And so you can too.
Yeah. So you can tell, is this for me or is it not?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not going to be for everybody. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to be a good fit for, like, I'm not for everybody.
Right.
That's okay. That took me a long time to learn. Right? It's okay not to be for everybody, because the people that do choose you, going back to what we talked in the first segment, are really going to choose you.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Right? And if you're trying to be for everybody, even the people that choose you aren't really choosing you. That's why you saw so many transfers under previous staffs.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just funny you say that, because, I was a big, and people that have listened to me have heard me say this before, like, I never said I was going to the University of Tom Osborne.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the University of Nebraska. I love the University of Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like when it can be about that, like you can put up with a lot of it's like anything you love.
Mm-hmm.
The more you love it, the more you're willing to endure.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and you know,
if I don't like it very much, I'm not putting up with much.
Man, and we'll get to this in the next segment, but there was a moment last night at Rickwood where I'm thinking to myself, man, how much did Reggie Jackson love playing baseball? Because some of the stories he was telling, some of the things he was talking about enduring, not just in general, but at that specific place in Birmingham. And, you know, some of the things that we don't always talk about when we go and honor, you know, a place like that, or that when we talk about honoring the Negro Leagues or something, and the ability to endure through some of those things that, judging by social media reaction, seems like a lot of people had forgotten about already. I want to get to that because I thought it was. That's what you kind of had your Tony Vitello moment with Reggie Jackson, where you're like, "I'm not riding with this guy. I'm not riding with this guy." It's like, "Oh, am I riding with this guy?"
Yeah. First 5 minutes, I was like, "See, that's why I don't like him."
Yeah.
Then the last 8 minutes, I was like,
"Oh, that's why he is the way he is."
Hey, you need to. Yep. Yeah, that's almost verbatim what I thought in my head.
We'll be back. We'll get into this next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We were talking in the last segment about how the way Coach Rule recruits isn't for everybody. The way he runs his program isn't for everybody. And, you know, depending on how much you love football, depending on how much you love the state of Nebraska, is really going to depend on how much you can endure, because they're going to ask a lot of you, right? And it reminded me of watching the Rickwood game last night in the pregame where Reggie Jackson's talking about some of the things he had to endure when he was coming up, and the just horrific stories about what it was like to be a black baseball player or a black person in this country during that time period. And one of the things that I thought immediately was, man, Reggie Jackson had to have loved playing baseball. Because I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not sure there's anything in this life I love enough to endure that willingly. Like I'd go back up north. I'd find a job. I'd be like, not for me. And, you know, I think about him. I think about what like Jackie Robinson endured and the reason he was chosen to break the barrier as opposed to other guys that were better. Just frankly, they were better baseball players. It's because Branch Rickey or whoever made that final decision believed he could endure, right? And I know, you know, because you texted me during the pregame last night, like that, hearing that story and those experiences from Reggie Jackson, like, can kind of shake you a little bit because it seems like a long time ago sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you have to remember it's like, oh, that just happened.
Right. I think you know, so I'm watching it, right? And I'm talking to my mom at the same time. And, like, you know, the affinity that I have for my dad, right? So we would have these conversations. Because if you ask people that know me or have known me from, you know, a kid to now, like a lot has changed. You know, it's very I like extremely explosive. Could be violent, right? But fought a ton, and too much so. And I think sometimes people would look like, how do I get so angry so fast, right? And I would have these conversations with my dad about controlling my emotions. And he would talk about things that he'd gone through.
Mhm.
Right? Like going to the Tangerine Bowl. And, he had linemen, which he named,
Mhm.
that wouldn't block for him. Because he knew, or they knew, that they wouldn't probably get to play in the bowl game or stay in the hotel if they had black football players.
Mhm.
So they wouldn't block. And he hurt his hand really bad and ended up fighting one of the linemen. Ended up earning some respect, and Coach Caniglia and those guys would look out when he was on the road
Mhm.
because of what he was going to have to endure. And he was better at it than me, which is to land the plane, which is why I was so defiant about being like him.
Mhm.
I'm not putting up with that. Scott, insert last name. I do know his last name. That I almost killed a kid in second grade. It's because he called me darky. Right, like I look back at that and I'm embarrassed. His dad comes and he knocks on the door and this other kid changed me. I just remember there were, unfortunately,
Mhm.
there were several, but I didn't want. I'm gonna defend. I'm gonna stand up for myself. You didn't stand up for yourself.
Mhm.
I'm gonna stand up for myself. You just endured. I don't want to endure. Right? Just is done. It's just because when he told the story, it's like he was hurt.
Mhm.
Right?
You could see it on Reggie Jackson's face last night. He was hurt.
Right.
He's still angry.
So, when I was like, well, why would you, OPS, you weren't supposed to, you couldn't get a job as an administrator because you were black. Why did you go back to OPS? And he's like, well, when I was going to go to Chicago, Milo Bell and Caniglia talked me into staying and they gave me a job.
Mhm.
Right. They're like, nope, we want you to stay. Gets the wrestling job. Rest is history. Right.
Mhm.
Then after time,
Then they want him.
then they come back and get him.
Mhm.
So, and I know, you just heard my mom, right? For her to, it still hurts her.
Mhm.
And she didn't like Reggie Jackson either. I didn't like Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
Because Reggie Jackson, to me, this is total true serum. See, Reggie Jackson, to me, represents the thing that I did not want people to think about me. Oh, there's the angry black guy.
The angry, defiant black man.
Angry, defiant black man.
Mhm.
Because the world owes him something,
He's gonna be mad.
he's gonna act out and be mad.
Mhm.
Right? He's mad because his black friends think he's too white, and for his white friends, he's too black.
Mhm.
So I hear even Reggie's first couple of minutes of talking last night. I was like, "See, here he goes."
Well, I don't like that guy.
Yeah, that's what I was saying in my head.
Mhm.
Then when I listened to him tell the story and the feelings that he could, the shock value of him casually saying something that people casually said to him, I don't have any problems with. I've said it before on 1620, the other radio station. Again, not insecure enough to say another deal. But because that's kind of how it was.
Yeah.
And listening to him just kind of landed the plane. And he put that on the heels of Coach Rule talking yesterday about life and investing in people. And I'm just like, I got to find some sort of balance because, when Reggie closed and he was like, I'd have been on some oak tree somewhere.
If he wasn't protected by some of his teammates and managers
and he used white people, right?
Mhm.
He said some good white people, which is why I'm like, God, he's totally talking too about me.
Mhm.
Right? You have to somehow at some point be able to say people that are for you are just for you. Doesn't matter what color they are.
Mhm.
They just are. There's going to be some people that look like you that are for you. There are going to be some people that don't look like you that are for you. But to acknowledge that people are people is the first step to recovery.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to look a certain way in order to be functional for humans. And when we continually make that distinction ahead of time, it ultimately, in my opinion, number one, it's short-sighted. Number two, you're setting yourself up as a recipe for disaster, right? I need Tony Veland in my life as much as I need Craig Sikora, right? I need Paul Lamanji in my life as much as I need Lance Griffin, right? Like, I need Jamar. So, and what do those people have in common?
They're for you.
They're for me.
So let me ask you this: how long did
choose your words carefully? I'm having a moment.
I know.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
And I apologize.
No, it's fine. Let it rip.
How long did it take you to realize that your dad's endurance was the ultimate act of defiance?
High school. So probably, I think I got in trouble as a junior. My senior year, I think, was relatively clean. Struggled a little bit in college the first couple of years, because then I'm introduced to a whole nother world. But I had I'd just been arrested, and I came home that weekend because they came to get me, and we're sitting downstairs, and he cried once when he thought my sister was going through some things, but I'd never really seen him cry before. And he looked at me and he's like, "What is wrong with you?" Like, that's how he asked me. Like, "What is wrong with you?" And he was hurt. And I didn't quit cold turkey, but it did allow me to kind of springboard into, you know what? I got to get this thing right. Like, this is not somebody that I should have grown up in the public school system when people used him as like leverage against me. I just wasn't mature or smart enough to see it for what it was. But his emotional toughness is 100% why I'm like this today. And it's a total 180. Now I use the ability to endure and control my own destiny as a strength. And not as a sign of weakness.
We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. I love that. We're Nebraska. We do tough stuff.
Yeah.
That's I appreciate that.
Trying to recalibrate here.
Yeah.
I'm encouraged. Listening to him, that whole enduring thing is a real thing. Yeah. And when he first said Coach Osborne, I thought he was going to leave it at that, and I was going to kind of roll my eyes. Not that I don't have reverence for Coach Osborne, but he didn't have it the toughest.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Devaney had it the toughest.
Yeah. Way tougher.
And I also think in some degrees, Coach Solich did it too. Now, that's not to say there wasn't any enduring for Coach Osborne, because there was a stretch where I think us rallying around him with what we felt like he was going through emotionally made it easier to pay the price. Sure. And when I talk about paying the price, I mean paying the price. I mean, what you were willing to put up with, how we kind of had to thinsulate. You kind of had to build walls. Weren't even really sure how to handle what was going on with public sentiment. You didn't know, did they trust you because you were good at football, or were they really saying bad things about you because, we were having a ridiculous run of being in newspapers, or you just didn't know, right? Own school newspapers were hard on us, right? And I just remember, because Johnny was going back to school. On campus, he'd show up for some classes and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, I'm getting my degree." He's like, and he always calls me nephew, right? We say Uncle Johnny. That's just how he is with our family. And he's like, "This is nothing. This is nothing." Like, a lot of people, a lot of athletes here have had it a lot worse than this. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And I get it, right? Sometimes Johnny's over the top, and he's always got jokes, and he's always funny, but he's also the same guy that came to speak to my kids at Northwest when I couldn't win for a hill of beans, but he knew what we were trying to build. It was the same guy that even though people were making fun of him about his stint and his pro career and what, being arrested and this, that, and the other. Like he carried no shame, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just was like, hey man, like I'm back. I'm going. Listen, he had a tail with beads. He didn't give two cares.
Mm-hmm.
So for all the arrows and people were slinging what he wasn't, he just was like, this is the land. This is opportunity, and he always says that. This is the best place to be. You have an opportunity. You have an opportunity. You have an opportunity. So to hear Coach Rule say that, just in my mental, emotional Rolodex, I go back to being at the Hewitt Center in '94 and having Rodgers with a backpack. Listen, I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
My man is in jeans and cowboy boots, pointy-toed. And he's talking about hang in there, fellas.
Yeah.
Look at me. I'm going back to school. Look at me. Like, you know how hard this is?
Yeah.
Try helping turn this program around in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm telling you, we're in Nebraska. We do tough things. Figure out a way to stay ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
For Coach Devaney, it was bringing in minorities, having African-American women come to campus to give a peace of mind and some comfort to African-American males that, hey, there are people that look like us here that don't just play sports, right? To actively come to Omaha and recruit African-American students.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's not negotiating revenue sharing.
No, that's hard.
That's hard.
Actually hard.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to get back in the morning at 4 a.m. I heard Coach Ferentz say the same thing 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, do I want to come back from Los Angeles at 3 in the morning? No, I don't. Can it have some shortcomings? Absolutely. But I'm not going to waste my energy nor my bandwidth overthinking that because TV is going to do what TV wants to do. He had no idea how right he was going to end up being, but he said it. Well, so when I look at I love the fact that he has historical context to just keeping on. Mm-hmm. Just keeping on. But part of the reason that he goes back in his frame of reference for reverence of toughness and doing tough things are the reasons that this state still struggles with NIL and the transfer portal. Because it is counterintuitive to who we have been as a state. The reason that the Midwest and teams in the region appear to be struggling with NIL a little bit more, some of it, yes, has to do with fan base and graduation base and things like that. But a lot of it it's contrary to the region.
It's temperament.
It's a contrarian form of belief to how people that are from this area were raised.
Tend to operate, yeah.
So we can't get our minds around it. Mm-hmm. Right?
They're making how much money in college?
Right.
They're doing what?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's plenty of resources here to support 1890 and collectives. It's just philosophically, this is just my opinion.
We have a hard time with it.
We have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
Because it's counterintuitive. Listen, if a farmer is willing to send his kiddo to another water tower to go to a school that isn't in that area because of co-op and sharing of revenue and taxation on farm property, and they're that principled, you think they're scratching off checks for kids that are, quote unquote, just playing a sport? Nah, it's counterintuitive.
It is.
So you have to be able to have these conversations out loud and address it for what it is and be honest about what it is that's going on and why it behooves student athletes in this capacity. You can distinguish yourself from paying for players to the day-to-day regimen to be who you've called those guys to be. If I'm Coach Rule, I'm taking him on any NIL meeting. Why would I chomp at the bit to help out 1890? Not just because of Caleb, right? It's because
it's good for the university.
It's good. Say it for those in the back.
It's good for the university.
One more time.
It's good for the university.
It's good for the university.
And what's good for the university is good for the state.
Not that hard, is it?
It's not. But here's the tricky part, right? With that whole conversation is up until now, it felt like we didn't have anybody telling us the why. Why do we need to fund 1890? Why do we need to pour resources into college kids that are already going to school for free? Why is this important for the university and the state and the population? Making that connection is what overcomes the natural hesitation of our temperaments to not love things that don't feel like they're grinding, right? Yeah. And that why, though, that's the connect. And it's what we're talking about, with Corey Campbell a couple of days ago, right? And yesterday with kind of like how we lead and how you need to, as you're developing, right? Because that's what the university and state's trying to do. They're trying to develop a temperament within the population of, hey, this is how we do business now. This doesn't change who we are. It just changes a little bit how we operate, right?
And you have to trust, right? Because, yes. and we heard Sipple say it a handful of weeks ago, and Schaefer said it to me again yesterday about tremendous leadership and vision. Not sure if you want to work for them though, right? Then it's not a negative. It's, do I want to be? Do you want to be? Does she want to be? Does Dr. Ells want to leave Texas and want to be held accountable on the day-to-day for their commitment to excellence that makes the juice worth the squeeze? It's not for everybody.
It takes a special kind of person.
And it takes a special kind of commitment to where you are. To be right where your feet are, to maximize in that moment, takes extreme commitment.
And I would argue that it's a different kind, but that same type of endurance that we were talking about.
Listen, I'm not pretending to be in Coach in Sean Padden's pocketbook, but I'm guessing he would have been okay if he didn't move here.
It seemed like it, yeah. I've read his resume. It's impressive.
I told you 2 guys that were driving, facilitating a couple of parts of the visit or taking me around for practice or whatever, that had been there 2-3 weeks. Man, there's just something. I said, so what do you like it most? 2 guys from the East Coast. What do you like most? Well, there's just this, I don't know what it, and they're young, so I get it. The lexicon is different, but I knew what they were saying because it sounded a little something like this. We're on one of the little fast golf cart things, and I can't even remember. We were going to academics. And it's like, there's this thing where the more you're around these people, there's just this obligation you feel to morally want to be better. To what more can I do? What more can I do? You ever been around those people where you kind of sometimes feel uncomfortable if you're just standing around? Now, I'm not saying mistake activity for achievement,
right?
But if I'm making this pitch for the university being a reflection of the pride that we have in this state and hard working, let me tell you something with 110% certainty. If you're making one red, as my dad would say, one red nickel at that university and you work in that football department, you are earning your money. Because there have been many that are out the door quietly that we don't even know about, that they'll figure out until they get it right. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Am I getting my bang for the buck? And if I'm not, hey, guess what? It's not for everybody.
It's all right.
So you may get your money. You're not sitting around with your hand out, though. I can listen. I can promise you that.
Yeah, you're gonna earn it.
That's the message.
Yeah,
we're still who you want us to be. Trust me, we are.
Watch them work. Watch them work.
Come, go spend time with the staff.
Go watch one of those camps. Go watch the hours they put in.
Ask anybody. Do those camps look like a regular camp?
I don't have a frame of reference.
Fudge, no.
But I'm gonna guess no.
No. No. The individual instruction, the amount of hands on deck. We got to hear TDG Junior, Vincent Jr. talk yesterday. His job is what it is. Do you know what Trey will do in a given practice? Hey, do you guys need anything? Hey, can I get you some water? Hey, you want to come over here? Do you want to see this? Just a servant's mentality when you don't have to.
Just whatever needs done.
Say it again.
Whatever needs done.
Yeah, you're in my head a little this morning. That's cool. Still mad at you for a couple of the earlier questions, but we're good. This takes me so long to recalibrate when you empty the tank.
Yeah, no,
It was okay.
I mean, Coach Rule thought it was a beautiful question.
That's a great question. I appreciate you asking it.
Okay.
I appreciate you answering.
No, it's all good.
You know, it kind of but talking about like the way people work and the way people endure it. Like, there's been this question because we talked about this a few weeks ago about like motivation and how like external motivation versus internal motivation, right? Because I think we were talking about Jordan at some point, like how petty he would be and how he would use these made up external factors to kind of motivate himself and whatever. And like, I'm thinking about that when I'm watching Reggie Jackson talk last night. I'm thinking about it as I'm listening to Coach Rule and the way, he's like, oh, we got to outwork the work, right? We got to, and I listen and think about it when you talk about, what it's like for the people that work for him and what's asked of them. And I can't help but think that it's going to be really hard to be successful at Nebraska if you're primarily motivated externally.
Mm-hmm.
Because at some point, like, to me, that has its limits.
That's a fantastic point.
Like, it has, like, external motivation has its limits, right? Like, yeah, maybe Michael Jordan could get himself up for a February game because he made up something in his head that LeBradford Smith said, but that's not happening in July and August when he's working out, right? That's an internal thing. Like, you might be able to be motivated by, like, we don't like the way it went down at Colorado last year if you're a player, and you're like, that might motivate you week of, but like now in July when you're trying to get your work in so that you're in a position to go beat Colorado in September, like, that's not helping you now. Like, the internal motivation is what allows you to endure.
What's one of the reasons why I extend so much and our staff are so cool with Christian? Right, he's been gone 3 weeks in a row. We got a huge 7-on-7 tournament. Would I love to have him yesterday and today? Yeah, absolutely. But he's gone, right? He's in Oklahoma. But what do we know about him when he's with us? His capacity to want to do work because he wants to win at such a high level. You don't have to ever worry about, oh man, this guy's just worried about being recruited. Nah, because trust me, like, he and a couple of others will be the bell cows of our capacity to do work and our tempo at a practice. So I trust him, right? When I use that as a random example to say, when something on the outside may appear to be, Nebraska got a new plane, or somebody donated a jet, or they got it pretty good. Here's why, though. That plane isn't to go to the Bahamas.
Yeah, they're not going to Cabo in that thing.
Right?
It's where you make 8 recruiting visits in a day.
100%.
Like, that's it.
Right? So you're seeing an immediate return on the investment. And I was so glad to hear him say, because I didn't know how he was going to put it. I just know how he feels. Because he can be very cynical when it comes to what they do and its perception versus what other people do. He framed the Ohio State finding guys, they're 4 and 5 stars. You think those guys don't come to camp? And then he's like, when they do it, it's this. But when we do it, it's diamonds in the rough. He's like, no. And he almost said, without saying it, just watch. Just watch.
Exactly what he said.
These guys that are getting these offers after we offer, watch what we do with them. Right now,
well, I mean, look what he did at Baylor with those guys.
He just
what did he say at Temple? He had 40 guys on that roster at one point that ended up playing in the NFL or ended up playing pro football.
And I always go back,
at
right?
Temple,
because I always remember what people tell me, and I'll go back to when he said, he was talking about like development and I remember him saying early on, all I need to do is get my staff around these guys at an early enough time period, and we'll do the rest. This won't happen to me again. This was a year one thing. we hadn't been here. And what did he say? I will never have to rely on what somebody else tells me about what we're inheriting. And I was like, okay. Like, I heard it.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, it didn't, I don't know if it didn't comfort me, because I wanted I want to be around Anthony and Teddy as much as I can.
Yeah.
But I did understand it. Right? And so it made it palpable. And I wasn't bitter.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they both got their opportunity, right? So it's like that helps.
But I say that to say that's what he was. That's what he's saying. He just said it yesterday. Man, when I do it, they're diamonds in the rough. No. Like,
they're NFL players.
I couldn't believe he said that out loud.
I couldn't. I mean, like, it's a pretty
listen. I love it.
It's a definitive statement, but
and he left himself no wiggle room.
And that's one of the things that I admire about people that do that.
Me too.
Me too. Say the scary part out loud.
Yep. Oh God, you say that. Oh, yeah. I know you gravitate towards that.
Like, be willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah, make yourself vulnerable. And because most men won't.
Yeah, most people won't, but especially men.
And especially we're a lot less apt.
Especially
because we feel the pressure of the stereotypical
and to perform.
Provide. Please perform, perfect. That's like it's people one-on-one, but it's certainly the stereotype or the generalization of men. Am I providing? How much am I making? Are the lights still on?
Yeah.
To heck with
feelings and dreams and ambitions and whatever.
That's why I tell you. That's why men don't get their flowers
while they're alive.
It's why men don't get their flowers when they're alive. They'll say a bunch of good things about you when you're in a pine box or we're getting ready to spread ashes that people are afraid to tell you
out loud because number one, we don't know how to talk to one another, but number two, it's vulnerable. We've been conditioned to not be vulnerable. Because
you ever heard? When's the last time you heard somebody say, and it was cool, where somebody's like, he's just being a man.
Yeah.
And it was in a
positive.
A positive.
Yeah.
But guess what we can say, and it just flies. Oh man, that's just what women do. That's being a mom. And it's like this lovey adjective. Who doesn't get that? Is men.
Yeah.
So because we don't hear that, number one, we don't know how to receive it. Number two, we certainly don't know how to give it.
Yeah, we don't know how to do it.
And we can't function when some of us can't function when other men say it to us.
Makes us uncomfortable.
Right?
Like I know that
right?
I know that I make certain people uncomfortable.
Right? It's like if it's
that's why
it's the beauty of being in that department.
Yes.
I'm telling you.
That's why when I send a text to you 6 years ago, saying, "Hey, someday we're going to do a radio show together." That's why, I know there's a chance you don't receive that well, and you're just done with me, right? I get it. I understand that. That's a chance I'm willing to take. If I believe something, if I believe in something, I want to say it out loud. It's like when I met my wife, second wife. And I knew pretty much right away, right, that she's the person I wanted to be with, that this thing was long term, and this was the end game for me. I told her pretty quick. I think she met my mom probably 10 days after we met, because I knew
that's ludicrous.
I knew if mom didn't sign off, none of it mattered.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm not getting any deeper. And so I told her that. I was like, I'm pretty serious about you already. I was like, I just got to tell you, if my mom's not cool with you, this isn't happening. So we got to go meet mom. And I knew that could have freaked her out and been like, no, we're good here. I'm out. Or she's in with me, right? I send that text to you. I know you could be like, I'm maybe not talking to this Ravi guy anymore. Or you're in with me, right? You have to be willing, again, to live with the consequences.
That's why I like the fact that, because you know what it is that we gravitate towards about him is the same things that we're not willing to do.
Yeah.
As individuals. He is. And so it's like, man, I can listen to that guy all day.
You admire the things that you wish you had more of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And even me, who I think I've got some of that, I wish I had more.
Yeah.
I wish I could do it the way Coach Rule does it in his position. Because if you're in that position, it gets harder. The more high profile your position is, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for me to send it when I'm a part-time radio fill-in, right?
Well,
A little bit harder now. That's DB. I'm Rob Lulla. Mike Sautter coming up next year on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Joining us now on the Pillar Exterior stage with DB and myself is Mike Sautter from Hurrdat Sports. What's up, Mike?
Much. Just here, right?
you're just here so you won't get fined?
I'm here. I'm actually, live in person. I like being here live in person rather than driving in a car.
With young Jacob?
With Jacob sleeping the whole way, like last week.
Leave my guy alone.
That dude, I'm telling you, we got in the car. I picked him up. I'm driving
God, he is
to
crisp
Kansas City.
this morning, isn't he?
Yeah.
And
Crystal.
I picked that dude up, and it wasn't okay. It wasn't the Glenwood exit. That dude was asleep. So we're talking like 35 minutes. He was asleep
Just out.
the whole way.
What? So I just got to.
It was a little early because that dude doesn't wake up.
For 2 segments, right?
Yeah, until 9.
Yeah.
This is your first time being over?
I just usually here at 9, but we had to move stuff around today again. So
full disclosure, Ravi, I was chastised from afar.
Uh-oh.
Your boy,
By me?
Cade. No, he
Oh.
didn't really admonish me. No, you were kind of just trying to give me a heads up, though.
yeah.
So I'm, trying to help out kids.
Oh yeah.
So Vermos is on
Yesterday.
the sidelines.
Like I need a
Got-
band-aid.
he's got his shoe off. He's like, man, and I get along with him really well. He's like, hey, do you have a Band-Aid? I was like, no, I bet I can find one though. Like, I got you. Stay right there.
And I was like, the trainer tent's right over there.
Can I finish? So there's this tent with this bag.
Yeah.
And I see McLaughlin is over there, who I love. Like,
Yeah.
so I was like, hey, I don't even know what I thought. I just felt like McLaughlin could help me.
Yeah. Let's
Good
go
dude.
find a band-aid.
I was like, hey, are there any Band-Aids in there? And he's looking for something,
Right.
right? So he's like, oh, try this zipper. And it's a big, it's a big
Trainer
time
bag.
Yeah.
It's a big time trainer bag. So you know me, I need a compass, right? It's like anything more than 4
You can't
zippers,
even-
I'm screwed.
You can't even answer your phone when people call you.
What I do now?
I called you last night. You didn't answer. I had a question.
But listen, I was an emotional mess. I was probably still trying to recover from Rickwood. I'm dead serious. Like, don't laugh,
It's fine.
dummy.
I just called Coach Lamonji and he answered. So
He's a lot cooler than I am. So I'm rummaging through the bag, and this dude's kind of like mean mugging me, big jughead, and Sautter comes over and he goes, "Hey, this is the training tent.
Yeah.
I just want you to know, like, that guy over there that is like the tournament director."
he's in facility. He's in charge of all the battle tournaments.
He's-
country. Or not in charge. He's in charge of setting all them up.
He's nonplussed right now. Like,
Yeah.
you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, I just want to get Vermos a Band-Aid.
Try to get
So I got the Band-Aid.
Because the trainer went to the bathroom.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
gone. Like, nobody
yeah.
was over there.
Yeah.
So I didn't know.
Not like you were rummaging while somebody was like, hey, can I
Right.
help you?
Yeah, now tell
Right.
me if this isn't vintage DB. So I give Vermos the Band-Aid, and I want to be accountable. So I walk over there, and
I didn't hear what you said.
I walk over there and I go, hey, I apologize. I apologize. I didn't know that was hands off. I just wanted to get the young man a Band-Aid. And he has on these big, thick glasses. And I mean, he's yoked, right?
Right. Yeah.
So he's on his phone. He doesn't look up at me. He peels his glasses up and he goes, yeah, that's unacceptable. And I was like, okay, all right, just wanted to, apologize. Like, I know that clearly wasn't the right thing to do. I was, my bad. Yeah, whatever. And I go, hey, good talk. Appreciate that. Like, good looking out. And one of the officials, and it just happened to be Arvin. He's like, what do you do now, DB? And I was like, not a damn thing. I said I was apologizing. Big guy wasn't having it. But it's just like, that's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
Like, when dudes say things and they're just being authentic and it's from a place of
Like, hey, genuinely, like, hey, didn't realize I wasn't supposed to be doing that. I'm sorry.
And I said clearly, I apologize. Right? So I guess you could tell me, like, I shouldn't have. Maybe I didn't have
Just
to go.
a lot
there.
of testosterone running around.
Clearly, he was huge.
All over. Yeah.
That dude's not short on producing.
No, Brian's a big
acids.
dude. Yeah.
And just the delivery, man. I was like, see that. I said, don't do it. You enjoy being out here. You love it. Don't do it. And ding dong over here. Come on, DB. Come on, DB.
Don't worry about it.
It's fine.
Let's move
It's
on.
fine. It's fine. It's just how he is. He's got to keep things under control.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
I mean, you know, it's an easier way to keep things under control, not being a dill hole to people.
Yeah.
But then who'd you walk me over to, and they kind of gave me like a, hey, what's up, hug?
I don't remember. Brandon, Kenny, maybe
Oh, by the way, how about a Purify and a Kenny?
Yeah.
Having kids out here playing.
playing like in high school.
I can't believe their kids are old enough. That makes me
Yeah,
I don't
that's.
feel good about that.
Hey, Purify's son looks like a spitting image almost, like facial. I mean, his face is the same. He's tall and long.
So,
and,
I'm a big nickname guy.
Mhm.
And, like, I'm just known for, over time, I'll give you a nickname. But you have to be patient. And they kind of want it,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
And after, like, 6 or 7 plays, I walked over to him and I go, I'm tempted. Now, keep in mind, he's just meeting me.
Yeah,
I
it's
said,
like first week.
I'm tempted to give you a nickname, and it sounds stupid that I'm telling you this, but I'm gonna wait. It's too early, but man, have you almost earned a nickname? And I know what it's gonna be.
He looks good.
I'm just gonna. And I asked our coaches, I was like, should I give him a nickname already? And they're like, and Rice was like, nah, man, you gotta at least wait till team camp.
That's because how long it take for Rice to get a nickname.
Yeah, it took a minute.
So that's why he doesn't want
But
you to
that's
give
my
it away.
guy too.
That's why he doesn't want you to give it away.
Dude, he's hilarious. He's shrinking. He's like on the Shane diet.
Well, like a pack of lunch
Tyler,
meat a day. And
he just looks slight. I'm like, I almost want to put my arm around
He's
him.
mad at
I
me
call him
yesterday.
nephew. Why was he mad?
He goes, "Can't get a follow back, Sautter." I was like, "Oh, my bad."
Oh, by the way, who
He
needs you to
mad.
follow him? Oh, Ryan Peters.
Oh, I don't follow him?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Come on.
Not happy.
Come on,
I'll fix it right now.
Ruined his dinner, him cussing you out
wait,
under his breath. So
cussing people out.
I wasn't.
Oh,
And he didn't really cuss. He
I like
just
this.
was like, oh, imagine how inefficient this will be. I actually have to use a guy that doesn't like communicating to be the go-between between me and Ravi. He was talking about me.
yeah.
I was like, it's not, I don't like to communicate. Knock it off.
You never answer the phone.
It's not, that is, I just talked to you for 40 minutes the other day and went out on my back deck to do it. Flipping Tim Johnson.
Who's Tim Johnson?
Tim Johnson, I've told the story. I'm not going to waste your segment talking about
That's
why
okay.
I got
I mean-
fired from the Blue Jays. He didn't tell the truth about serving.
Oh,
Mm,
And, I
Okay.
hate the L word.
mm.
oh, yeah.
So I just went with Tim.
We just don't go.
So
Got it.
it was pretty efficient.
Yesterday- yeah,
I
man.
love that the games are on time.
We finished 3 minutes early the whole day.
Yeah.
18 teams that played. Each team played at least 3 games yesterday, and we finished 3 minutes early.
So did
That's remarkable,
So did
by the
everybody have at least one back to back?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was cool.
Yeah.
So I could vibe with that too.
You're basically most of the time outside. Miller North played 3 in a row, but that's like
I
rare.
figured they were. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're over there forever.
Yeah, they played 3 in a row, but that's kind of rare. Usually you play 1, you sit 1, you play 2, or you play 2, you sit 1, you play 1. And it's literally like teams are there for a couple of hours and then they can go home if they want.
It was slick.
It is extremely efficient. Like the dudes. So
I just like
The field manager guys are
I like
great.
the camaraderie.
yeah, it's great. And there hasn't been there wasn't any issues yesterday with today may be a little bit more
Today
because
was
we're
get
getting
dicey.
the bracket play and you want to win and everyone's competitive and all that. But yesterday was a great day. Today we'll start right back up at 10 with just one game, and then we'll go What was that? We'll go through. I think 3:30 is the championship game at Papio South. So we'll go through. About 4:30. Be out of there.
We're gonna, and when we come back, we'll take a break, get you for another segment, and we're gonna let Ravi dribble and drool over his guys from Miller North.
We love Miller North, guys.
There's a lot of guys that look good on the hoof.
Mm-hmm.
That were there yesterday from all 18 schools. So we'll let
come
you
back.
We'll let you talk about some good-looking fellas.
Roll Stangs, baby.
Here we go.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, wrapping up hour number 2 on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Mike Sautter joining us as well here on the Pillar Exterior stage. All right, so let's talk a little Miller North. A couple guys out there.
Oh man,
Just went right into it.
This guy.
I mean, we gotta
Right
talk about my
into
guys.
it. Just smack dab into it.
That's right. I'm just diving head first.
No, they look good. I like from just a visual standpoint, they look big, strong, athletic type of guys. I think they're still learning, which is
if there's
gonna take some time.
if there's a Q rating for their staff,
Mm.
it's for me.
Pretty high.
It's high.
Yeah,
Like I enjoy good the
people.
guys on their staff.
yeah, good people.
Yeah.
You big Burrell guy?
Yes.
Yeah, Brell's has great energy.
I used to take full disclosure. When he first got here from Cali,
Mhm.
and he was playing for the Beef. Bostic was our general manager, and I can't remember what my pretend title was. I wasn't very good at it, but we had this downstairs office. At the
Assistant
exchange.
to the assistant general manager.
Yeah. Something like that.
Something like that.
I don't know. It was whatever Noddle told me to do, basically. And he was one of the first. He was like a prized get.
Mm.
And so I would take this dude to the barbershop. He was this amazing sprinter. He was great on the hurdles, and he turned out to be a really, really,
He's a good track
really
coach.
good player.
Yeah,
Right, for the Beef, and he's one of those guys that got to Omaha
stayed.
and ended up liking it.
Yeah, stayed, never left.
And so he started at Miller North. Then he went. Who was first? Prep or Miller North?
Miller North. Prep.
Miller North, then Prep, then Mount Michael,
Yeah,
and then Miller North.
Yeah.
So he's just a guy that I have a particular
good track coach.
affinity
Also,
for, just because
sprinter guy.
I've known him from. You're going back to early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, you see his son there yesterday?
Yeah.
Like, I remember watching this little dude on Snapchat when he was like 2, dunking on these little Nerf rims, running around the house like this little terror.
He's good people. Miller North will be. I think there's going to be a little bit of
curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're, going to take some time, a little bit.
It's just weird to see them in like a 2x2 or 3x1.
3x1 sounds like
Like a true
I'm just
3x1.
like, hold on. Where are the wing backs?
Listen, out of the gun,
no.
none of that tricky. It's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. It's kind of one of those things where, like, if you played them, like it's just different. Because you don't know what you're gonna get. Like the first week, you don't know.
They might get somebody early.
Quietly, I
Just
kind of
what we
like their collection of talent, and I know that they had a lot of guys leave. I like Central,
Yeah.
Mm.
A lot of little quick guys.
and we'll see.
BJ's good enough.
I think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like him. I think you can win games with him and not have to have him manage.
Chip on your shoulder, guys.
Doesn't
Yeah.
need a babysitter.
Yeah.
I like him.
I like Central. Central almost, they should have, them and Millard South played yesterday because they were in the same pool for some reason.
It was interesting to watch Ron Colley without the family of either Rogers or
Dopes
Dotzlers.
yeah, there's no.
I was like, oh my gosh, it's like the sibling clans is finally ran out.
Ran out.
It was good. It was good to see Coach Burns, though. I love him.
Yeah, good dude. Lakeview and Central City will. One of those two teams today play. They'll likely play, I think, in the semis. And one of those two teams will play in the semis because they match up in the quarterfinals. And they're a little scary, I think.
Hey, who's on our half? If we could potentially go 12-2 and 3-30.
330, yeah.
So I know we have Northwest at 12.
Yes, you have Northwest at 12, and then if you win that, you'll either have Gretna East or Norris. Whoever wins that, and then on the bottom of that is Lakeview. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Lakeview or Scott. And Scott, listen.
How about their offense?
Yeah, it was cooking a little bit. I mean, I know they didn't win all their games. Their pool was hard.
I said this during the state finals last year.
Van Dyke's a good quarterback.
Little dude can sling it.
He's competitive. Like,
so he had the fake. Remember the fake punt in the pass during the, and I was like, maybe use a shot in the arm and try to throw it a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, he fit the ball in some tight windows yesterday.
He's a good quarterback.
Like, I had to kind of invoke a little bit of you don't like to coach guys super hard during this because you want to see what they can do. But I had some young outsides, and I had to call those guys over at the first 2 series. I was like, hey, listen. Okay, well,
Lakeview Scott is right.
I was like, hey, listen, this dude is accurate.
Yeah,
and don't bait him. He can fit the ball in. So let's just get to where we need to be and play football. Stop eyeballing this dude like he isn't gonna needle you because
Lakeview and Scott is at 11, and then after that is Central City Platteview at 11:30. And man, Ryman Ziebert is a grown man.
He's a big
See
kid.
that dude? He's big.
So I was kind of. And maybe it's his demeanor because he's quiet. I kind of was expecting a little more oomph.
Yeah,
like,
he's quiet. Yeah.
You know, he just kind of was.
He's a big
and maybe
guy.
it's just his personality. Like he's a good-natured kid, so he didn't say much.
Yeah.
But he's one of the few guys, and maybe good on him.
Right.
That didn't do a lot of yapping.
No, there isn't a lot there.
I mean, a lot of other guys that thought they're pretty good out there do a lot of barking, man.
Yeah, I was like, can I tell you? The one guy that I knew he's good, right? Like I knew he was good, but I was even more so impressed yesterday. Isaac Jensen, Miller South.
I'm gonna watch him.
I'm telling you, man,
he's the guy that kind of goes under the radar with the
catches everything.
I'm gonna have to, my most recent memory is in game,
right?
So he's almost a year removed. I'm curious to kind of study him more. I did see that they put AJ. They're using AJ in the slot a little more.
Yeah, no, yeah. That was. I watched him yesterday. Was the third time. So second time I saw him in 7-on-7, and when they were playing North that in passing league that day, he was in the slot a lot, and I'm like,
watching having coached against like them and Bellevue. That's why. I was telling you about maybe moving people for later on down the road.
Yeah.
Right. If we want to go to like big nickel or stuff like that. It's offenses like that that have good guys that can play in the slot.
Yeah.
Where a lot of teams can't match up. Where I know if we're going to play for any meaningful opportunities in the postseason, we have to be able to match up.
Speaking of slot, Owen Zek was in the slot.
Listen. It's hard. I don't say it out loud. I'm with our own guys, right? And it's not like they don't want to hear me talk about other. I'm like, little Zek is nice.
He was making plays yesterday.
Hey,
he's like their fifth guy receiver.
So see, I'm not buying that. Everybody, I'm not. Let me tell you what happens. Okay.
Well, I'm not. Who's the kid? I'm forgetting from Central.
I know what you're gonna say. They got dudes across the board.
lot.
But I'm gonna tell you how real.
Sean hasn't even showed up yet.
I'm gonna tell you how real offense works. They're all not gonna matter. You just can't. So somebody's gonna be a 1. Somebody's gonna be reliable. Somebody's gonna be the 2. It's hard to get a 3rd unless that's how your offense is built, right?
They got a lot of options.
So I know right now you call him the 5th, but what happens is it's game plans happen.
I could see.
So teams may say, "Hey, I'm not
We're gonna do this.
We're gonna play 2-man. We're gonna do this. Or we're gonna double in the slot. And you're gonna have to find somebody else. At least good teams will try to take your primary couple options away. He's a guy.
Could you see him? I could see him out of the backfield catching passes.
He's a guy that could easily, in the course of a game, be unaccounted for.
Right.
That's going to be a bad match.
I
know, like the natural wisdom is to say, not any relation to Ty, just natural wisdom is the thing. He's this number.
Yeah.
But maybe he could be a guy in a particular game or two that's like
pop off for
we're out of answers.
Could have
Right,
like
we're bracketing here,
Four.
we're walling here.
he could have like 4 catches for like 120.
If that's the guy
2-3
that beats us, you just tip your. That's how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah,
You know who wasn't going to beat us?
this other guy.
Avon Hall.
Yeah.
You know who wasn't going to beat us? Isaiah McMorris.
Right.
Now, if Whaley and Goodwater got loose in the slot, okay,
You're like,
Yeah.
all right, good on you.
good. But those guys weren't going to
Right.
get us.
Yeah.
So I just think you had because you can't take it all away.
No, Zach, though, you know how Miller South loves to run that wheel route.
They
love that with the running back.
They have the best 7-on-7 offense in the state.
I could see them running that with moving him to like that wheel. with
Dude, how
that
about the
running-
little delay out the smash concept? I'm like, that's always going to be open.
Yeah,
It just is.
he's
In 7, it just is.
Yeah.
If you can't put pressure on him or at least impede his sight line,
Mhm.
he's just playing catch.
Yeah.
And those guys are too. I mean,
and Jet's a good enough quarterback to
Yeah.
get it. Yeah. If he makes the right reads all the time.
but I like the Vikings too. I'm glad you gave them a little bit of run. They look good. They were just
Really?
starting when we were
They
leaving.
were 3-0 yesterday.
Hey, that's a good little pass.
He told me,
they got long bodies too.
Coach Frenzen told me, he goes, we're playing it this year. He goes, we're ready for that. We're ready for that this year. We'll be all
They
right.
like the Cheshire Cat.
I'm like, okay.
And you know me deep down, I'm like cheering for Central City too. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, Central City. I was like, wait a minute, we could play them.
Yeah.
Don't go.
Central City's scary.
I just love seeing their butt. Those are my people, man. It's like
Their bus has a big, the big bison head on it. Troy's good. He talked about creative offense.
I like him.
Central City's offense is very creative.
I like him. I think he's willing to do what it takes to move the football.
Hey, it's going to be a good day. Free admission, by the way. We're not charging admission
Over
or
at Papio
anything over
South?
Papio South. So if people would like to spend their Friday afternoon in the
Watching
heat,
some 7-on-7.
I'm going to try and not get sunburned today.
Dude, put more clothes on. You guys, it gets hot and you guys put less clothes on.
Yeah.
Take it from the guy who absorbs heat because of a darker complexion. More layers, baby.
Yeah, that's too hot for me.
Keep the sun off you.
The white people got to learn still. They're still white.
Oh, wow. I got a good base layer, though.
Gotta go get one of them Fisher bucket hats.
Nah, I ain't
and
doing that. I have one. I ain't doing that, though.
That's Mike Sautter. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. And we are joined now by Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, how are you this morning?
Good. I'm good. I'm smiling because you guys played that Elliott Brown stuff on the intro, and it's like you know me so well. It's like a subject that I'm very, very much in tune with, and having written about Elliott in November, right after he tore his ACL.
So the funny thing, and I'm going to let you go because I do like that we're staying in your wheelhouse. I remember we had him in studio. This was a handful of years ago. He came in with Teddy. It was Teddy's. He'd only been on campus for the off season leading up to the season. So that would have been 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember when he left the studio, Mitch, and keep in mind, like I've known him obviously his whole life. And
Yep.
he left the studio and I go, every time they're putting on a basketball event, charity event. I'm like, every time I'm around him, I don't know if I should be 20 years older or we're the same age, right? Because he's businessy, he's savvy, he's personable. He had built this crazy brand through social media.
Yep.
Like he doesn't give a what. He just has this, I'm gonna do this, say what you want, I'll see you at the finish line.
Oh, did Mitch freeze on us?
Mitch might have froze. Wi-Fi. Look at that great look on Mitch's face.
I was going to say, I seemed like he was contemplating for a second there.
I'm here
There he
if you
is.
guys can hear me. All right.
There we go.
All right,
There
I'm
we
back.
go.
I'm back.
So, Mitch, with the Elliott Brown thing, I mean, I know you said that you appreciated Coach Rule,
Yeah.
kind of calling that out, and what, DB kind of just gave what impressed him so much about Elliott Brown, but obviously you've got an affinity there as well. Like, what are some of the things, especially in light of what Coach Rule brought up yesterday, that stick out to you the most about Elliott Brown that maybe people don't know?
Well, I haven't known him his whole life. But I did know Lance Brown, or was around Lance Brown when his dad played at Nebraska, and it's interesting to see that Elliott came from Lance. There's a difference. There's a certain difference there. There's obviously some similarities, and he got a lot from his dad. But like the entrepreneurial skills, like just the natural savvy to be in front of people, is pretty incredible for Elliott to have picked up at a young age. He was in high school at Elkhorn South, like that. Hey, this guy's got like something different, something unique about him. So, yeah, I was very, I was very interested to see what he was going to be like. And when I sat down with him at Memorial Stadium last November to write about him, and this interview was arranged before he got hurt, and then he got hurt, and a couple days later he still did the interview and still had like this positive aura.
Oh, Mitch is gone.
We lost him.
Let's try and maybe just grab him on the phone, Shane.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll get back with Mitch here in a second. Seem having a little bit.
I think Mitch likes being in the stream, though.
I think so, but he might be coming back here.
There he comes. I can see him loading. It's like when I think.
Yeah.
There he is.
If he's done with football now or whatever it is, but like obviously he's got a bright future around the game and around athletics and just like around the digital world.
I wanted to ask you about another guy that you wrote about yesterday, I believe, or at least we're tweeting about in Jalen Gramstad. That's a super interesting story. I'm curious, because there's a little bit of debate going on locally. Are we excited about it because it's a cool story, or are we excited about it because it actually helps Nebraska? And I'm wondering what your thoughts are. I think we might be on a little delay here.
There might be a little delay. It's a good question. It's the last time I'll ever tell you that.
Well, I mean, it may not be a beautiful question like the one I asked Coach Rule, but
Oh my God.
Shane, let's try and do the phone, Shane.
Okay.
Seems like we're not doing great with the internet today.
That's not our internet.
Yeah, no, I
That
just
might
in
be
general.
Mitchie. That might be Mitchie Mitch's.
It's just in general. The internet's
Not
not
a guy you
cooperating.
don't call Mitchie.
No.
Mitch.
I told you about like the revelation I had the other day, right? It bothers me a lot. I'd never thought about it before.
Yeah.
Until
Until I brought it up.
Well, until people that like mispronounce my name as Ravi instead of Ravi.
You don't want him calling you Rob, though.
No, but I also don't want people to think that I'm rocking the adult IE, I just don't think that's for me. Mitch, how you doing? You back with us?
I am. Sorry, guys. I've been on StreamYard all morning and had not had any issues. So I apologize.
It's us.
Apparently, I hit my limit or something like that.
I would say maybe you hit your, it's like the early 2000s. You hit your data limit already. You gotta roll that thing over.
Very possible.
So, Mitch, I was asking about Jalen Gramstad, and obviously he commits to Nebraska coming over from NAI Northwestern. And I'm wondering, like, in your mind, are we sort of enamored by this story because of the story or because it actually might help Nebraska this fall?
No, I'm enamored by it because like of what a tiny window there was for a quarterback to fit into, who was in the right place with the right mindset to be able to help Nebraska in the right way. I mean, this kid could have been from Massachusetts, and it would have been just as unusual and unlikely and like fortuitous for Nebraska that he fell in their lap. The fact that he was 3 hours away and grew up a Nebraska fan, and I mean, I think that one of the things people don't realize about that place in Iowa that he's from is like that's LeVar Woods' like backyard. That's like who needs quarterback help more than Iowa, and like needed it last year. And LeVar Woods is like the shining star of their coaching staff, and he's from West Lyon. And if anything's going on in that part of the state of Iowa, I mean, you can be guaranteed that LeVar Woods knows everything about it and is not going to miss one stone to turn over. But Gramstad had this affinity for Nebraska. And like when I talked to him a couple of weeks ago on the day after he came to the camp, and I watched him at the camp in Lincoln on June 10th, He said, I asked him, look, you're kind of blowing up right now. If you get other opportunities, are you going to go take some visits and explore things? I'm sure like most FCS programs would want that guy and give him whatever he wanted. Mm-hmm. He said, no, it's Nebraska, or I'm going back for another year at Northwestern, the NAIA school. So all of that, in conjunction with like the way that he can help Nebraska, that he can help all of the quarterbacks at Nebraska in different ways. Like he can help Dylan in a completely different way than how he can help Heinrich Harburg or Daniel Kalen. All of that stuff is just extremely intriguing. And that has nothing to do with necessarily his story at Northwestern or like what he's done on the football field. I just think he comes across as like this really, really cool customer. Like you either have it or you don't when you play that position. And my takeaway from him, despite the fact that he's 5'10" and 193 pounds, like he's got something. He's got some moxie. He's got the it factor. Like I don't expect that he's going to be the starting quarterback at Nebraska this year, but like his value to Nebraska in that room is potentially massive.
It's interesting. Like where would you put maturity on Nebraska's need to list in the quarterback room?
It's there, and this addition has helped that. You have a pair of true freshmen who are both mature in their own ways, in different ways. They're not. I don't think either one of these guys is like your normal true freshman walking into college. They're not the same. They're different guys. Like having spent time around Danny and Dylan, like they have strengths. Their strength finders would be quite a bit different, but they both have. I would say they're both mature guys for 18 and 19 years old. And then Harburg, he's a mature guy, and he's started 8 games at Nebraska, but 8 games is not a lot especially when you consider the context that it was in, and they were flying by the seat of their pants with how they were going to run the offense. So like experience, maturity, there's definitely have those aspects within the 3 scholarship quarterbacks in that group. But adding a 22-year-old to the mix, it's something that you can't coach into a player. You have to have lived through things in order to have a certain kind of maturity.
So, Mitch, which do you think is a more important consequence of Gramstad coming into the room, being able to perhaps use Heinrich Harburg in some other ways outside of the quarterback spot or in selected quarterback packages, or kind of giving you a little bit of a buffer to make sure you're allowed to redshirt Danny Kalen?
I would say Harburg out of those two things, and this is all dependent on Heinrich, buying into this. I mean, we're sitting here 6 weeks from the start of camp, and despite the fact that we all, I think, feel like we have an understanding of the quarterback picture, and it's clear to me sitting here that in my basement that Dylan Raiola is going to be the starter at the end of August. I don't think Heinrich Harburg is looking at it that way. I would hope that Heinrich Harburg is not looking at it that way. Nobody's announced anything. Matt Rule's not made a decision or not announced a decision. I see Dylan. I know what he's got. Like I've talked to people. Like I think I know where it's going to go. But if you're Harburg, man, you're fighting tooth and nail. You want to fight tooth and nail until the last opportunity that you have to win that job. And so it's going to take some buy-in from him, like some real trust from him, if they were to come to him and now say, look, all right, we brought in this guy with experience who we're comfortable putting into a game if we need him in a situation. And what we would like to do to make our team the best is to run you in some different packages. We think that you can help us as an H-back, as a tight end, as a guy in motion, as somebody who can be a decoy, as a player who can throw a pass when another quarterback is in the game. And this is a path that, you can use to showcase your athleticism and give you the best opportunity to play in the NFL in a couple of years. If they go to Heinrich and say that, there's a certain concession that he's got to make, and he understands that he'll be making if he starts to train in that way. So I think that's the best thing for Nebraska, and it would be great for Heinrich in the long run, but I also understand that it's not going to be an easy decision for him to enter into.
Yeah, and I know conventional wisdom, it's what we immediately trying to do. Okay, hey, so what does this mean for everybody else in the room? And And I don't know if it frees Harburg up any more or less or not, but I do know one thing. Even when he was the backup quarterback, the direct backup quarterback last year with Jeff Sims, he still had the opportunity to be utilized in other packages, right? It was Minnesota, which was game one, in which he was ready to do other things for that offense. So whatever they're going to do with Harburg, I think they could do whether Gramstad was there or not, because they did it last year. I think I look at it more in terms of how it impacts a guy like Kalen in terms of where he needs to be at what time, because then it becomes more about those two situationally and the patience or the lack of patience you'll need to have with Kalen, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, there's definitely value there. I mean, I guess I would say that I think even if you just had three of them and Gramstad was not in the picture, that you would aim to redshirt Danny next year, and you would hope, look, if things happen where there's multiple injuries, then that becomes an impossibility. Then fine, you play the cards that you're dealt. This enables them to go into the season with even more of the mindset that he's not going to play in more than 4 games, and I think that should be something that they're able to accomplish. And back on Heinrich, I think he can do even more in preparing himself to be a weapon in this offense than what Nebraska did for him before the Minnesota game last year. If you talk to Heinrich about how that worked out and how that went, it was late in the preseason, late in after training camp. It was a few days before the season opener last year when they talked to him about going and catching a pass and doing something. And he's such a natural at showcasing his athleticism in ways beyond the quarterback position that it was easy for him to pick up, and he just repped it a few times in practice, and then they felt comfortable with him doing it in the game. Not to say that if he had stayed number 2 all season, that they wouldn't have felt good about using him in practice and eventually in games and even more packages. But I think if you have a guy like Gramstad, it makes it even easier, and you're more comfortable with the coaching staff training him to be that player.
Hey, so Mitch, let me ask you, if I was going to try to convince you, hey, I really like the mindset in the offensive line room. I love the temperament. I think it's a position group that everybody wants to model their uniformity. And I also think they're nailing the temperament in the quarterback room too, with the guys in that room. Because I think, and listen, I'm a defensive guy. I want to err on the side of defense, but I think if your team is led by your O-line and your quarterback room, you have a much better chance than if it's led by your safeties and D-line. No disrespect to Jason Peter, Mike Brown, or anybody. What would it take me for me to, would I have to convince you that you can see what they're trying to do with the mindset in the quarterback room, right? Because I think you'll agree that the offensive line room, they're kind of being the bell cow. How close or how much debating would I have to do with you to convince me that they're getting the temperament in the quarterback room right as well?
Well, I think I just want to see some results.
Okay.
I think I believe that I see what you're talking about. I believe they're doing the right thing. I believe it's the proper approach to not make any kind of pronouncements about what their plan is at quarterback when you've got true freshmen in the situation. I think you take it as long as you can, and when it becomes obvious to everyone involved, then you go out and you say this is what our plan is at quarterback. And beyond that, just the mindset that Glenn Thomas is bringing to that room, and just how it mixes with the personalities that they have. I think they have the makings of something that can serve in that role that you're talking about. But as far as going out there and being the bell cow is the word you use for the offensive line. I mean, I think we're a little bit of a ways away from that. The quarterback, by the nature of the position, is going to be a leader, you hope, within your organization. But what about
emotionally and not physically? Or does O-line have to be both for that real handing off to happen?
Yeah, I think the O-line is a bigger piece of it right now. Quarterback's going to be super important. Of course, he's the quarterback. But I think asking him to be the emotional or physical leader right now is a lot, and I don't think they want to do that. I think you let that play out organically, and you see what happens. You see what kind of success, if it's Dylan, you see what kind of success he has early in the year and how he's preparing himself for that. But I think the things that he's doing in the off season, the way that he's handling his business around his team, the things that he's doing for his teammates right now, it's bringing him the kind of respect, and he's putting himself in a position to be a leader. But it's got to happen. It's got to happen organically, and I think they'll get to that point. Do they get to it right away in 2024? I don't know. But the fact that you've got an offensive line that has the qualities that this group does, I think it eases that. It eases that situation. It makes it a lot more attainable to get what you're looking for from your quarterback.
Mitch, I wanted to ask you about Jaden Doss because we finally got some a little bit more clarity on his situation yesterday during the press conference. I mean, we had seen him.
I think I prematurely said he was the number 2 corner on that side.
Yeah,
and I wasn't sure. It just looked like that.
We saw him at corner a little in the spring game, and then we got the comments yesterday from Coach Rule. And I guess, like, when you're sitting there and looking at the kind of the whole picture of Coach Rule talking about, being glue guys versus guys not having any guys that are divisive, and you got this guy who they talked about last year as being the guy that was the closest to playing time as a true freshman when you had some highly touted guys in that room, and then all of a sudden he's switching over to defensive back. Like, what does that tell you about sort of the trust that the players have in Coach Rule and his staff, that they've got their best interest at heart?
Yeah, it tells me, the same thing that it told me when Jeremiah Charles switched over there. And there have been players who have gone back and forth between DB and corner, and I think there's a DB and DB and receiver. I think there's a good dynamic that exists between Garrett McGuire and Evan Cooper. And they allow the players feed off that. They see that. They know. I mean, Jaden Doss understands that it doesn't mean just because he's playing corner right now and that he's fully committed to corner that like he could never play receiver again in this program. I mean, at some point in a player's career, like you get with Malcolm Hartzog, and this is specifically on the defensive side, like at some point in a player's career and their progression, you need to make a decision. You can't string somebody along their entire career and say, you play this position this week, this position next week, like maybe next year you'll play this. No, I mean, it's in the best interest of the player to commit them to a spot. But I mean, Jaden Doss as a redshirt freshman is not in that place yet, and they're trying some things out. And I think he has trust, and so many of the players in the program have trust that these coaches are do the thing that is best for the team, but they're also going to do the thing that's best for that guy as a player. And if Matt Rule stands up there and says, we think it's in Jaden Doss's best interest to focus on corner. Like he has that kind of ability and potential. We think he can be a great corner. Jaden understands his own situation better than anyone. Like he knows what he feels most comfortable at. And if he thinks if that's just lip service and that's not the reality and that's not true, and he's better suited physically to be a wide receiver, like he's going to know that. And, it's not, then that's a problem with him. So Matt Rule doesn't say that kind of stuff unless he really believes it. And, unless it's really true that Doss is a good fit at corner. And, that's the give and take, the relationship that exists in this program that allows for guys to succeed and then build that trust and have it grow, as their careers go along.
Mitch, great stuff as always. We appreciate
really
the time,
good, Mitch.
And we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
That's Mitch Sherman from The Athletic.
There's something real quick I want to get to after on the other side.
Yeah.
That Mitch said 2 things. They go together spot on. And one of them is something you harp on daily.
I'm interested to see what those things are. I'm also want you to be interested in going to teamjackfoundation.org. Team Jack Foundation is trying to find better treatments and one day a cure for childhood brain cancer. Right now, the treatments are out of date. Some of them are almost 50 years old, and they can be highly toxic to the children. Even if they get rid of the cancer, a lot of times they end up with lifelong issues because of how toxic the treatment can be. There's a way to help. You can go to teamjackfoundation.org, volunteer, find out what events are coming up, or just donate directly on the page. Or if you want to know more specifics about how they're fighting this fight, all that information is on teamjackfoundation.org as well. So make sure you check it out. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We will be back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up in just a couple minutes. And DB's going to ask me some questions about things that I apparently talk about a lot. We're on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. We are back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. That's Coach Rule talking about Jaden Doss.
I swear to goodness, we didn't have any sort of conversation. God's my witness. But that's the thing that drew the ire a couple weeks ago when I was like, we just make this about flatline speed. And remember, and it was like, oh, that's kind of a hill to die on. And then Mitch.
Cholowinski?
Yes. Like went into it, and I was like, see? And then Coach Rule says that yesterday, and I was like, I get it. You don't have to reset it. I'm saying,
I'm coming back to get it.
For the lay person out there, don't just say, they're fast, they can play. That's not what it is.
Right.
It's
because not as direct of a correlation as we want to make it seem.
No.
Almost nothing in life is.
So, but he did, like that was my C moment. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he did something similar with something you harp on incessantly.
What's that?
Mitch, so he said something that is really, really, really undervalued in a coaching staff. Mm-hmm. I talk about it all the time with high school coaching staffs. It's even more important with college coaching staffs. The ability to get along and be cohesive. Mm. If the staff doesn't value each other's opinion equally and can work well with each other, you almost can never have position switching.
Yeah.
Guys will just be locked in because they either don't see it, they're not open to the possibility. If it's not another man's treasure is another man's trap. Like if you're not sharing in those kinds of similar philosophies, the position switches don't happen.
Yeah.
Because
everybody's got to be on the same page.
Yeah. So McGuire has to be encouraging Doss. Coop has to be encouraging Doss. They both have to see eye to eye. If McGuire's going to give up Charles, you know what I mean? So you don't have like Gradney going. You don't have any of the position switching if guys aren't on the same page. Don't ever undersell that.
Well, it's kind of a microcosm again of this thing we talk about not caring who gets the credit.
Yeah. Okay. Right? That's kind of you'll bang that drum.
Yeah. Well, I almost brought it up. That one of the first things that I think it was the first question that Coach Rule was asked yesterday was about the facility. What's the first thing he said? Yeah. Well, we didn't design most of that. The last staff did.
Yeah.
Right. Knowing full well how the state feels about the last staff,
and knowing all the cleanup that he's had to do from the initial
where he wanted.
Yep.
And still, he goes out of his way to give credit to somebody else.
Yep.
When he doesn't have to.
I know.
That's the thing is you don't like.
That's why my mom says he is him.
There is I mostly do it with accountability, but it's true when giving credit to people too, right? There's different levels of it where it's like, okay, there's people who just are not accountable at all, right? That's the lowest level. Then you've got the people that are accountable when they're called out. Like it gets brought to their attention. They're like, hey, that's my bad. I got you, whatever. And then like the highest level of it are people that are proactively accountable. They self-reflect. They're like, man, I shouldn't have done that. They go.
Even when they get their hand slapped for apologizing over being in a training bag.
Yeah. It's a very specific example. But those people that go proactively be accountable, you don't have to call them out on it. They go to you and be like, hey, I shouldn't have acted that way. I apologize.
No, and you know what? Full disclosure, if I'm being honest, do you know what the number one reason why I went over there?
Why?
This is God. Okay. Yes, I wanted to be accountable.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't want him to think some random black guy's just over here rummaging through his stuff.
Yeah. So you called it out. And you're like,
I immediately thought how it must look to
you're
have.
cognizant of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about
That sucks.
I don't feel good about like that was part of my thought process.
Yeah.
But if I'm
100%.
it was part of my thought process. I was like, man, I don't want to portray that image. Like, let me just go over here and set the record straight.
Yeah. Listen.
It wasn't. I wish the order was, let me set the record straight, because if these are the rules
and I messed them up. That's all.
I just want to own it. It was kind of like 1 and 1A.
Sure.
Right?
And that's, I mean, unfortunately, that's a math equation that you have to do sometimes. Like, how does this look?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So the other thing that you say all the time, and Mitch hit on it as well. That's why I truly enjoy talking to Mitch, as you know. So not only did he call that out, he expounded on it by saying, Coach Rule said what out loud? He said the quiet part out loud. He addressed the what in the room?
Elephant in the room.
I think he can be good. He's going to be good.
Yeah, and then he goes, he's going to be really good.
Right? Like, almost like he knows something we don't.
Which I think there's a lot. Right?
So,
but basically he was like, hey, he could be good as a receiver. This is what I heard.
What do you always hear? What do you always say? You have to be willing to do what?
Live with the consequences.
If you're
going to be vulnerable.
Right.
If you're going to put it out there, you got to live with the consequences.
Didn't he just did that. So what does that do for Doss?
It gives him an incredible amount of confidence.
What does it do for the fan base on the position switch?
It suddenly makes him be like, all right, we got to trust him. Right?
We act like...
Because he's not a cast-off anymore, right? A lot of times we look at position switches like cast-offs.
Yep.
Right? We're like we think of the one that worked. And
he went into the specifics.
Yeah. Hey, this height, you're this weight, you move like
can
this.
Do this, like, get it, not long speed, this, that, like.
We typically think of position changes as cast-offs, right? Like, if Heinrich Harburg had ended up at tight end, we'd be like, cast-off, couldn't hack it as a quarterback. The one guy that worked that we think of off the top of our head is Stanley Jean-Baptiste, going from wide receiver to corner and ends up playing in the NFL as a corner, right?
Well, how was it perceived with Tommy Hill when he went to offense?
We were like, oh, God, he must not be able to hack it on defense. Yep. And then they put him back on defense.
Because it wasn't really explained. It was kind of like, oh, we don't know what to do with him, but he just shows some skills.
That's what it felt like. It was like, well, we'll just toss him out there, see what happens. Yeah. And in that instance...
And it doesn't help Tommy emotionally either.
No, but in this instance where he goes, hey, basically what I heard him say was, we think Jaden Doss is a good receiver. We think he can be a special corner.
Yeah. Right?
And if you have an opportunity to have somebody be special, you do it.
So when I'm talking about Ethan Nation a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, hey, listen, like, let's not just be that dismissed. We don't have to sound the alarm. But when you have Tommy Hill and Jaden Doss at one corner and you have some combination on the other, like, I just was getting the sense that Doss is going to be there permanently.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think they need him there.
But what I didn't want, again, this more full disclosure moments, why I made that distinction is because I didn't want people to think just because Lloyd and Barney and these guys are good in the wide receiving room that he was going to be the
odd man out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He moved because he could be special somewhere.
But I didn't know, like, I can't say that because I don't know how he's going to be.
Yeah.
I'm saying that I'm building that case a couple weeks ago because they clearly, if you're going to move a guy that played last year, that was ready-made, and we had used him 55 times as an example of a guy that
came in ready to go,
and you can't rest on your laurels, and other guys could just be progressing, and this, that, and the other. I felt like it was the right thing to do to say he could also be pretty good too.
Yeah,
right. Like, a lot of guys aren't willing to wear two jerseys.
All right, let's get to Michigan, Lance, real quick. Lance, you've got like literally 1 minute. What do you got?
All right, man.
Hello, LTG.
What's happening, DB? My man. Hey, DB.
Yes.
Now, you've been having an attitude with me for 2 years. All right, for 2 years, you've been having an attitude.
My friend left me. Man.
So now that I'm here,
hi.
Am I going to see you?
Yes.
I had something planned.
Yes.
I'm here till next. Is it the plan that I told you about?
Yes.
With my son,
I will.
Is that going to come into fruition?
I will. We will be in Lincoln together. Yes.
Okay. When is that? I need a date.
I need Caleb. I mean, I'll ask him. Like, I'll set it up.
Hey man, I need time. Hey, Rob, you gotta understand, man. DB friend, it's hard to be DB friend, man. You don't get a lot from the other end. I tell you, man.
Wow.
This dude, even though I still love him, but hey, but you go to the barbershop though, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I will meet you over there. I will at 11:45, right?
Okay. Yes. I have. Well,
give me a time, DB. Come on.
I'll call you after the show because I have some foundation people coming to the house. I think I got a company coming.
Okay. Can you just let me know when you're on your way to the barbershop?
Listen, am I my brother's keeper? At 10:10, I will call you.
Thanks, Lance. Coming up next, we got Matt Vrzal to wrap up the show.
Oh, great.
As we get to our friend Matt Vrzal to wrap up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, got to remind you to get to unionomaha.com to get tickets for Thursday's match against Chattanooga. It is a USL Jägermeister Cup match, and it is Cancer Awareness Night as well. Make sure you get to unionomaha.com to get your tickets. Joining us now is former Husker and owner of Paisans Pizzeria, Matt Vrzal. Verz, what's going on, bud?
Good, boys. How you doing?
Good. Add great T-shirt material guy to that as well. He's big in the
great T-shirt material.
Yeah, just say hey, and great T-shirt material guy.
What kind of T-shirts are you rocking over there at Paisans? You getting the good stuff over there?
Yeah, of course I am. We're having a Big Worms ice cream shop today.
Perfect on purpose, man. So is the material. Hey, by the way, I appreciate you firing me that deal over for baseball. I'm a big fan of trying to raise NIL money for Nebraska sports, man. That's a pretty cool idea. Whose idea was that?
Oh, come on. You know that.
Oh, so was it hers?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I honestly didn't know that.
It's the parents.
Yeah.
The good part about media is that you get a lot of information. The bad part about media is you find out how far behind you are in some things.
Yeah.
So she's got Sister Megan has numbers, and the SEC has $858,000 for their baseball team, and I don't know what we have, and we're going to raise money. I'm like, great. Let me know how I can help.
That's a fantastic idea and it's right on cue, Matty, because how many times have we had the conversation in the last month, especially post Big Ten tournament and CWS, what kind of baseball program do we want Nebraska to be? Right. So it's right on cue. I couldn't pump that out fast enough.
Tell me this. And I just tweeted it out. Damon tweeted it out before, but it's for Nebraska baseball golf outing. All the proceeds go to the baseball team's NIL. It's at Woodland Hills on August 23rd. Tell me this. We got foul poles sponsored by Chick-fil-A. Right? Mm-hmm. How is the bullpen not sponsored by our good friend Les Vogler at Vogler Seaman Center?
Yeah. I would, and he could make a funny joke about like bull season and stuff. He has the best T-shirts. I can't even.
Can you imagine the Vogler bullpen, the Vogler Seaman bullpen? I mean, they write themselves. It's so amazingly. I would just be like, I'd call that guy back. How much you gonna give us?
Dude, he has. I mean, not to put him in your category of creative T-shirt designers, but his business T-shirt. Number one, it is a fantastic material. Number two, it's a perfect color. But the whole handy, it is a great T-shirt. I'm just afraid to wear it. Well, I don't wear just T-shirts anyway. But if I do, I wear it all the time. It's the same material as the Paisans one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The less you care about what people think, the better your life's going to get.
You keep telling me that, and at some point listen, am I better in 2024 than 2014?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. You made great strides. I told you many times I'm proud of you.
Oh, Lord.
Even though you're mean to me and you say I'm a mean person.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I got a question for you, Matt, because I try not to just ask this based on what we've been through, but I'm trying to make the case because I hear the position coaches and how much reverence they have for Rayola's room and their work ethic. And you know how you guys were always out on the field before, just whatever, right? When the bigs go first, it kind of isn't easy to follow. And I think they're getting the temperament in the quarterback room right too. How much of an advantage of that is, and I meant this with no disrespect to the defense, right? Like you can have a Jason Peter-led deal or a Mike Brown-led deal, and that's cool. But when it's the bigs and the quarterback, it just seems to go better. Is that a stretch? Or am I being too narrow-minded, or do you kind of agree? Because I think both the temperaments in those rooms, they're getting right. Just you know what I mean, like the mentality.
Well, it piggybacks off of our discussion last week of team, right? So the offensive line is the only team, and the defensive line, they're the only teams inside of a team. So what was your fear of Michigan before last year? You were scared of what?
Their D-line.
Right. But did you think that their quarterbacks or their receivers could go out and win them a game?
No.
So now this year, they go out. They lose an All-American caliber player in Zach Zinter, and they don't miss a beat.
Nope.
Nobody mentioned it. It got mentioned in passing.
Well, remember when they thought it could finally rear its ugly head against Ohio State, and that didn't happen.
It did not.
That didn't happen.
So now your first line of your room knows they are the dudes, but then your second line is just waiting for an opportunity. They're waiting to go seize the spotlight, and then the opportunity, unfortunately, presents itself. And you go out there and you don't fail, and you do great. Like, I tell people all the time, and they poo-poo it and they laugh, we don't need you. You are a luxury to us. We can go out and win without you. You don't matter. And that's not mean. That's just honest. Great organizations and teams have great lines. Like they just do. That's why our rooms are still tight. The defensive line room, the offensive line room, we will always be tight. We get along instantly. Pick back up where we left off. It's just, a guy got after me because, and it wasn't really taken out of context. I was just talking about NIL in a vacuum, basically. If you've got this much money to distribute, I would distribute it more to some offensive linemen because it doesn't matter who plays quarterback if your offensive line isn't right. And then some wackadoo was like, I'm tired of this. I need a quarterback. The quarterback will win us games because if we don't fumble and we don't this and we don't that, I was like, but if you don't block better, then the fumbles don't happen. And you know, you go into that, catch a snap. I was like, you go back and stand behind an offensive line and know that in 2 seconds you're going to get hit.
You'd also
300-plus-pound man that runs a 4.7.
In that position,
you tell me how anxious you are to catch the ball.
No, I understand, but that position group would also be the last to ask for any money too.
Correct.
I believe that to be like, you know.
But am I happy we have the quarterback room we have? No, absolutely.
And I'm not even talking about talent. I'm talking about likability. Guys that other players want to be around, you know, do the extra throwing, get along well, even though it's competitive. They're able to swallow a guy being the guy in the room. I mean, does it sound familiar?
That was a weird phrasing there.
Right? Like,
But it's respect. The word you're looking for is respect. They respect each other.
And there's power in it, I think, because I saw it work. Like, it would be easy for you know, it would have been easy for our quarterback situation to have gone a different direction. But because of the quiet competitive between the groups and the going along to get along for a greater good, like, there's power in that at that position. And this is before you even start to get to the results.
Look who raised the kids. Harburg's daddy, former player. Riola's daddy, former player. They were raised right.
Yeah, good play.
I'm so happy. I would love to see Arkansas here, but I'm so happy that they didn't make it because Van Horn in his postseason presser said, I'm done with this. I ain't going out and getting these home run hitting kids. I'm going out and getting kids that love baseball, hit singles, stretch them into doubles, and score on a sack bunt. I'm going to get those guys. Hurley, talking about when he goes to AU. I know you can play. I don't watch you play. I don't watch you shoot. I watch when you get down. Do your teammates come lift you up? Like, do they help you off the court? Do they like you? I watch your mom and dad. Because if your mom and dad only cheer when you're in the game, I don't want them in our program. Like, a shift is coming back to sports where the player isn't a showy player. It's a team player.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait. It's going slowly, but it's coming. And I'm going to be so happy because sports will be back to sports where it's not individual BS. It's team stuff.
That's why I still can't believe you call us Hollywood High, man. We do a pretty good job of that. Just saying.
I can't believe you said another man swallow it.
Why are you bringing up old stuff? That was like 3 minutes ago.
You just said that 2 minutes ago.
It's like,
did I tell you? Hey, did I tell you Mike B followed me on Twitter?
oh yeah, he won't talk to you much, but he's the great. He's a goat, man.
The greatest day of my life. I'm playing it cool. I'm waiting about a month. I'm gonna send him a message. But hey, Doug, great to hear from you. Miss you. If you ever get to Nebraska, hit me up.
Mike, he
Leave it open.
He is the most reluctant, quiet superstar maybe ever. That dude doesn't bother a soul.
No. But inevitably in Chicago, when it comes up in conversation that I went to Nebraska and played football, they're like, "You know Mike Brown?" I was like, "Yeah, I know Mike B." Like that.
Yeah, he's.
You need a drink? I'm like, "Yeah, if he won't drink it, I will."
He's great, man.
That's our guy, Matt.
You finally made it to the big time, Matty. Congrats on the follow.
I feel good about it.
I know
it was
you
a
do.
big day for me.
I know it is.
I made that fist pump.
If you get some downtime, come see us out at 7-on-7 today. Your boy Van Dyke looked sensational yesterday.
Well, I don't watch catch. I watch football.
Sorry, bud.
That's Matt Vrzal, not here for 7-on-7.
So,
Verz, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
See you, boys.
Thanks, buddy.
That's the show for the week. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back on Monday with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.